I'm going to do something a little different with this since I am getting firmly into the weekly video essays as opposed to the traditional video content. One of the things that I did during my Guild Wars 2 Zero to Hero series was incorporate user comments into the video. So I'm going to try to incorporate that into these video essays so I could give you my thoughts on some of your comments. So the latter half of this video will be circling back and talking about some of the topics from last video. Frankly, these video types are the only ones that I feel I can make about this game right now, since there really is no new information to speculate on, no new balance to really explore, and no new content to make any content about. I have some big projects working in the background, but ultimately this is all just for fun anyways, so stick around if you want to see some of my thoughts on your ideas. Getting to this week's topic, one of the things that everybody talks about when mentioning Guild Wars 2 is that it respects your time and how you can just play when you want to play and put it down when you want to put it down, and that there are weekly, if not daily, posts on Reddit highlighting this quality of the game. And as a sales pitch, it really does sound good, doesn't it? Like you as a player not needing to feel obligated to play a game, no subscription fee, no FOMO, no nothing. If you got some time you want to waste, hop on the game. The problem is that there is something about an inconsistent or uninvested player base that is actually a detriment to the overall gaming experience. How many of you guys have been playing either Guild Wars 2 or World of Warcraft or Lord of the Rings Online or anything else and joined a guild and it eventually just starts to bleed people out? If a game has a subscription fee, people let it lapse or pause it or cancel it, and then they just never return. Now imagine if a subscription-based game has people that casually just put it down and forget about it, how much easier it is to put down Guild Wars 2. If people playing or not playing doesn't matter, it breeds a culture of apathy. And between the apathetic, oh, just take a break crowd and the overly positive, this game is the greatest game ever crowd, it makes people uninterested. And if your idea of playing the game is just running around alone in the open world or waiting for other players to run by, then yeah, you can absolutely play this game however you want, whenever you want. Take 6 months off, come back. But if that's true, then it has the same appeal as like a Super Mario game or Super Smash Brothers. And in some sense, this is a very nice thing. I don't want anyone to feel forced into playing a video game when they don't want to, or feel like they are missing out on something when they have to step away for other obligations. And realistically, for a long time, this was my favorite thing about Guild Wars 2. I was in the Navy getting deployed for months at a time. No worries, my game's not changing. I was in college having to study or work on a big project. No worries. And as an individual, this works out perfectly. But as you scale this up, it is extremely hard to build a community culture outside of the casual one that exists. This casual culture is one that I have decided to call the new player treadmill, where this game does a relatively good job of appealing to new players and getting high levels of engagement for a very short period of time. But as the player learns the game, experiences the content, they fall into the void, and inevitably they take a break and never return. And this process is fairly obscured from the community and to the developers, but anyone who has actually tried to get regular engagement from a guild or a community knows how painful it is, because the game itself doesn't have that culture. It's obvious to me because I see my viewers regularly in the comments, and there are many comments from people who say, you know what, I did play this game, but now I don't, and I haven't for a long time. They come by the channel to see what's new or different, and then they decide, you know what, I guess I'll just wait a little longer. Even within the game, there are a number of instances where I have tried to set up static groups within different guilds and getting everybody on the same time, working towards the same goal, and it's painful. All of the largest Guild Wars 2 communities have had problems with this. Gain Gang has had issues filling and forming new static raid groups. The Void Lounge has had problems maintaining or growing their engagement in the in-game CM content. Some of this has to do with the set and forget nature of the game, where you get legendary armor or you get the title and you have no more repeatable rewards after a certain threshold. And the weekly gold incentives even fall off after a certain point. The lack of effective funneling of new players into the endgame content, or incentivizing endgame players to stay at the endgame and repeat that content, really does this game a disservice, and it is an overall detriment to the community engagement aspect as well. Most large, non-exclusive creators like Josh Strife Hayes, who plays multiple games, the Lazy Peon, who plays multiple games, and so on, have played this game, and they've even reached what most people would consider to be the end game. However, there is no incentive for them to play the game regularly as one of their primary titles. Despite their likelihood to praise the game overall, a lot of people have played this game and think this game is good, and then they just never log in because they don't have to. And oftentimes, if they do, they don't know where to begin, and then the cycle repeats itself. The strategy of converting gamers into regular players of your game is a critical element of a healthy community, which is the whole point of an MMO. If I wanted to play a solo game, there are plenty of amazing Game of the Year winning games, or soon to be Game of the Year winning games that exist. But for MMOs in particular, the community engagement and incentives to engage regularly with other players is the appeal of the game genre. And frankly, Guild Wars 2 doesn't have those things in place. But they could. We see this with like the PvP rush and the Return to End of Dragons event and these little events that pop up from time to time. They spent a lot of time putting these in place as automatic repeatable events internal to the game, and they did have an opportunity to draw players' attention. And frankly, it would have even caught my attention had the rewards been worthwhile. The original Fractal Rush event that kind of spawned and inspired this repeatable event cycle was so hype that people were so highly engaged with it. But every Rush event that has happened subsequently has been a letdown because the reward structures were not worthwhile. And this lack of any kind of incentive to play at a given time, or any kind of FOMO surrounding the seasonal events, just allow players to completely ignore that the game exists until they remember, oh yeah, I have this game, maybe I should give it another chance. So on one hand, people will paint these decisions positively. They claim that it respects your time, which for the majority of content is true. If you want to just roam in World vs. World or roam in the open world, absolutely. But these design choices sacrifice more coordinated content and the ability to build and maintain a community. So what do you think? Am I onto something, or am I way off? Let me know in the comments. I want to now take some time to highlight some of the community's comments about Expansion 6 and Guild Wars 3, since even though last week's video was my thoughts about Expansion 6 coming out, there were some people who shared about Guild Wars 3. Getting started, we have Gus with a full list of desires, and frankly, out of all these options, it looks like my man has been playing some Guild Wars 1 recently. The only thing that I could see as a feature update is controller support, which this game has needed for a long time. My buddy Pseudo is a Guild Wars 2 controller player, and he can help you if you are interested in third-party controller support. But after playing a bunch of Souls-like games that have both mouse and keyboard and controller as an option, and playing Monster Hunter Wilds, there really is no reason for a game in 2025 not to have controller support. As far as henchmen or heroes, if we are talking Dreamland, where anything is possible, this would be at the top of my list personally. But that being said, I do not see it happening. In all likelihood, once the Guild Wars 2 player base starts to wane because of Guild Wars 3 or because the next big thing is out, you could see basically all coordinated instance content just becoming completely abandoned. A new race would be cool, and players have been asking for that for many years, so I find it highly unlikely that it would be implemented now in the development cycle. Overall, I think this is a solid list of desires, but I foresee none of these in our future. Maybe in Guild Wars 3, if we're lucky. Harry and Court 95 believes that new classes would draw interest into Expansion 6, and to be fair, a 10th class would really change things up. However, after Heart of Thorns and the addition of the Revenant, I feel most players would likely opt for a more traditional elite spec over a brand new class altogether. Imagine you're a 12-year Guardian main. What is the likelihood that you're going to swap to a brand new class this late in the game's life cycle? I could see how it would be interesting, and it certainly would be the talk of the community for a while, but I don't see it happening. And I don't realistically see it being better than what Elite Specs tried to do. And I mean, Elite Specs actually did what they were supposed to. I mean, Core Guardian versus Willbender is a pretty big shift in how the class plays. Core Ranger versus Druid is similar. So I think Elite Spec are more likely than a new class, and I think they are better than a new class would be. Coco Katori thinks that new weapons aren't the same as Elite Specs and might be waiting to buy the next expansion if Elite Specs are not included. And this sentiment is true in a lot of cases. It's kind of off topic, but the recent NCSoft earnings report was absolutely abysmal for Guild Wars 2. It's down like 20% since Soto. So the company is bleeding money, and combined with poor consumer sentiment, it kind of puts ArenaNet in a bad spot. I personally felt really unhappy buying Janthier Wilds. I had just dropped like 2 or 3 videos criticizing the end of Secrets of the Obscure, and then I reluctantly bought Janthier Wilds. This time around, I am buying the new expansion solely for YouTube content, so that way I can keep everyone updated on what's going on in Guild Wars 2, even if I am not excited about it. I really had hopes for Janthier when they had claimed they had learned from Secrets of the Obscure, so I bought it reluctantly. But if I'm being honest, I'm not buying X-Pac 6 because I think it'll be good. Nokomax says they just need really good zones. Frankly, this is what I thought as well. Even without Elite Specs, if the zones are really good or interesting and they have profitable, repeatable content, it could really work out. And it seems like they kind of flubbed it for a while. Soto does have some decent maps. Skywatch Archipelago is, I think, what most people consider a decent map. Amnitas and Nyos kind of failed to hit the mark. In Janthier, most people think that Lowland Shores is decent. And then, once again, Sindri and Mistburned Barrens kind of didn't really hit the mark. Unfortunately, the formula that ArenaNet has been using hasn't really been paying off, which is crazy because they're coming right off of End of Dragons, which basically has 4 bangers, and then if you include Guyala Delve, that's the only one that really kind of failed. So it's kind of like the devs forgot what a good map was. Malakers14 says he hopes that there is some crossover between Guild Wars 2 and Guild Wars 3. And I'm not sure if you were a Guild Wars 1 player, but they did have a Hall of Monuments system in place to help give everyone something to do and give you some content during the final pushes between Guild Wars 1, Eye of the North, and Guild Wars 2. Are they going to do that with Guild Wars 2? Maybe. To be honest, they probably should, but let me tell you, the amount of stuff you got in Guild Wars 2 for maxing out Guild Wars 1 was not the same as what it took and what kind of prestige it held in Guild Wars 1. I think if you had full legendary armor and a bunch of legendaries and stuff, you'll get like a decoration for your Guild Wars 3 homestead. You already know that they are going to do you dirty, so just accept it now. The idea that we are going to get to bring over all of our legendaries to a new game and they function the same way, it's complete copium. If they do, I am probably not going to buy the game. Why would I buy a game that I already completed? I do hope that all of my time invested into Guild Wars 2 isn't 100% worthless, but it would be nice to have something either cosmetic or otherwise for the Guild Wars 2 and Guild Wars 1 stuff. My God Walking Amongst Mere Mortals title better carry over, that's for damn sure. And for this next one, sorry bro, I'm gonna butcher your name, Meloleo. He doesn't want Guild Wars 2 to end on a sour note. And I hate to break it to you, bro, but we've been getting sour notes for like 2 years now. We are just waiting for the final sour crescendo. My man Bulls X2 thinks the Cryptus retcon and what they are doing with the Cryptus is bad. And I actually got into an argument with some streamer. He was kind of a smaller streamer. He didn't know who I was, and he was doing Wing 4, and I was getting into it with him about the Wing 4 retcon. And I 100% agree with you. I do not like how they are tying and roping the Mersat in. It makes me cringe so hard. There are about a million other things they could have done instead of just tie everything back to the Cryptus. Like, let some of these story beats go in a direction away from Nyos and the Realm of Dreams and that sad, sad place. Like, let's go somewhere cool. I'm hoping that the end of Janthier Wilds does something cool because lore-wise, we've been in a bad place for a while. Hotbar Dad wants some bows for the caster classes. And Elementalist longbows would have been an easy slam dunk for ArenaNet, like a literal slam dunk, and they never did it. Hopefully this is your round, but I am not counting on it. I read every single comment anybody has written on my channel, even the ones that get flagged by YouTube auto mods. So if you write a comment, whether you love my content, whether you hate it, whether you're just showing some support, I read every single one. So thank you so much for everyone who shared their thoughts. As much entertainment as you get from these videos, the comment section is where you get to provide me entertainment throughout my day. So thank you guys so much. And with that, thank you for watching. A big thanks to all of my subscribers and a special thanks to all of my members who support the channel here on YouTube. Thanks again, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace.